All right, we are talking about the stories that matter tonight. The stories that affect all of us in some way, shape, or form, but for some reason, mainstream media is not talking about them. There is a crisis in Baltimore City education that will affect generations. And I argue bigger than the Flint, Michigan water crisis. Tonight, we're talking to a mother who has firsthand experience at one of the failing schools. We're talking about this toxic chemical train derailment in Ohio and why this should scare us here in Maryland and the entire country. We're talking about Damar Hamlin's eerie interview about what caused his collapse on the football field a couple of weeks ago. We're going to talk about it all, and that is coming up next. Enemy territory here. Hello. It's Wednesday and it's time for Pop and Politics. We are talking about the latest in hot topics, news, and entertainment. I'm KJ, and let me introduce you to my co hosts. Tonight we have Shelly E., and we also have joining us back again tonight is education advocate Blanca Tapajasco. How's everyone doing tonight?
We're doing great.
Excellent. I am so excited. Yana and T are out tonight, but they will be back with us next week. All right, join the conversation by leaving a comment on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. And don't just comment, subscribe. Subscribe to our social media so you always know when we post new content. Again, you can find us at the Pop and Politics YouTube page. We are an independent media, and we definitely appreciate your support. So if you want to support us in another way, you can also donate. Any amount is appreciated. You can check us out at our website for that. That's www.popandpoliticslive.com. Again, that's our website. You can check for up-to-date information. We are a necessary voice in news and entertainment. All right, ladies, let's set it off. So tonight we are going to start off with, before we really get into the Baltimore City education crisis, we're going to start off with the headlines tonight. Firstly, talking about the Ohio train derailment. As you know, I hope you guys know, well, take a look at this clip first.
I see so many people talking about the train derailment at East Palestine, Ohio. And all I'm going to ask is that if you do this, you get your facts right. I literally grew up right down the road from East Palestine. My old childhood best friend lives in the fucking town. My current best friend literally lives right next to the town. It is so much worse than what the media is telling any of us. I'm getting reports from people that are down there right now that they're literally seeing schools of fish floating down streams, rivers, fucking dead. I got a video from my friend, okay? And she's like walking, dude. It's all fucking dead. All fucking dead. And on the top of the water is a really pretty chemical rainbow sheen. The chemicals are in the fucking water, and they're lying to the rest of the country saying they're not. The water's been contaminated. The soil's been contaminated. The fucking air is contaminated. You literally are about to see some of the worst fucking health side effects coming out of people in that town. It's not even funny. And y'all want to know something even more fucked up? The restaurant that I work at in a whole different state had to donate food to them because we had people from the churches calling to tell us that Red Cross never fucking came, FEMA never fucking came, the environmental conservationists still have yet to fucking come, and nobody's fucking helping them. Meaning all of the fucking firefighters that were working get no food, have nothing to help them, nothing. Okay, all the people that were displaced have no food, water, a place to stay. None of that shit. It is so much worse than what they're telling you, and TikTok probably won't even let me post this video, but if this video gets posted, please save it and repost it everywhere you fucking can, because I'm telling y'all, they are covering this shit up. They are covering this shit up because they don't want to get out how bad it actually was. This was not good. This was the worst fucking thing that's happened probably in the past 8 years.
Wow. All right, so again, this was a train carrying 20 cars containing hazardous chemicals derailed on February 3rd, with 10 of the cars toppling over, spilling noxious chemicals into the air and water supply. 5 of the cars were carrying toxic vinyl chloride, which was subsequently burned to prevent an explosion. Ladies, I mean, you heard her, what she said. This is terrifying. I want to get your thoughts on this, Shelley.
Yeah, our hearts go out to those people in Palestine, Ohio, of course. It's not only sad, and your hearts don't just go out. Again, there's a common theme that we've been having on this show, is how our government is complicit in destroying Americans. This on-purpose fire to burn some of the noxious chemicals, these cancer-causing deadly chemicals that were not, seemingly they were not even transported correctly, let alone the accident in and of itself. While we have Mr. Buttigieg traipsing around on skateboards, look like he's a teenager with absolutely no experience. The EPA, who goes around and wants to fine normal Americans, regular Americans, for a drop of water that may come from a spout, but yet they're not there to protect the waterways and the people of Palestine. These are Americans. This is, I'm going to say this, and I know I may be exaggerating a little bit, but all of these acts of corruption, I'm going to liken them to treason. Our government is committing treasonous acts against its own citizens.
All right. A lot to unpack there. I want to go to you, Blanca. Before I go, I want to just say, piggyback on some of what Shelley said. So the legacy media networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC, has spent less than 30 combined minutes covering the Norfolk Southern train derailment. This is according to Media Research Center analysts. They've looked at this between February 4th and February 14th and found CBS devoted 9 minutes and 53 seconds of total airtime. ABC had 9 minutes and 31 seconds, followed by NBC with 8 minutes and 52 seconds. What's going on here in your mind, Blanca? Why aren't they covering this tragedy?
Well, remember, we are not just in a city, but we're in a state that unless it happens to the closest one to you, people are not going to care. They're not going to care. I understand that back in 2015, the lobbyists, they did try to, the lobby industry, I'm learning, has quite a bit of power. And this Civil War kind of braking system that these trains have, they are just not, they're not up to par. But, we're going to have a mayor that couldn't fit potholes be in a federal role. And my question is, why do we expect anything different? Shelley has really taught me throughout our time knowing each other, Why are we surprised? I'm not surprised, because what does he know about transportation? I don't want to cut him. He's a man, I understand, and he did that little photo op with him getting out of the bike, being driven and then getting out of the bike to, and see, they are mocking us at this point because they don't know what they're doing. And it requires a person who is competent, because transportation is not just his bicycle. It's beyond his bike. It's not who drives him. This is air. This is railroads. He is just like the rest of the administration. Looky here, there's something else to fix our eyes on. And it's really, now though, people are losing their lives. And it's going to come to the point where people are going to say enough is enough.
Yeah, I mean, when you mentioned, and you all talking about Pete Buttigieg, he is the leader of the transportation. He's the transportation secretary. So this is his wheelhouse, his department. And you mentioned what drives him. Well, we know everything is about equity. He has not really talked about this incident. He talked about it finally, I believe, on Monday. But prior to that, before him even bringing it up, this tragedy, he's talking about the racial makeup of construction workers before even addressing this situation in East Palestine. So again, he was at the National Association of Counties conference, and he was asked about it. And he's talking about we've heard how stories from generations past of infrastructure where you got a neighborhood, I'm quoting him, often a neighborhood of color that finally sees the project come to them, but everyone in hard hats on that project, doing the good paying jobs, don't look like them, that they came from anywhere near the neighborhood. So he's always pushing this equity. Here, these people can't even drink water. They cannot go back to their homes. And he's talking about what color construction workers are.
Right. Look, one of the main buzzwords that you'll hear from many, mostly on the left, you'll hear some Republicans use that word, this idea of infrastructure. This is this big catch-all phrase that really means suck Americans dry, because none of the infrastructure ever gets fixed or updated or improved. It is a cash cow for the Democrat Party, for the unions to get these jobs on the record or look like they're doing something. But we can see it, Americans every day. We can drive through our country, our cities and our states. We see that the infrastructure is never fixed, from the potholes now to the railroads. Even recently, I think within the last 24 to 48 hours, there was some railroad derailments in Texas and South Carolina. Not to mention, recently, I think within the last month, there have been some near misses of airplanes at airports. So the infrastructure never gets fixed, but yet we're spending more and more money, just like we're spending more money in our schools that we're going to talk about later. This is nothing but a boondoggle. It is nothing short of high crimes and misdemeanors. And it's high time for the American people to stand up, take back their rights, take them back, get rid of these jokers. They are full of shit, and they are causing more and more harm and death for Americans.
Absolutely. We will continue to follow this story. It is heartbreaking, and I pray for the people in that town that this is fixed and they're made whole. All right, moving right along to Damar Hamlin. So Damar Hamlin sat down with Michael Strahan in an interview to discuss his sudden collapse on the football field several weeks ago. Take a look at this. This is clip number 2.
You're 24. Peak physical condition, can run circles around me right now. How did doctor describe what happened to you?
That's something I want to stay away from.
I know from my experience at NFL, they do more tests than anything. And in the course of you having your physical, did anybody ever come back with say you had a heart issue or anything that was abnormal?
Honestly, no. I've always been a healthy, young, fit, energetic, human being, let alone athlete. So it was something that was just, that we still processing, and I'm still talking through with my doctors just to see what everything was.
Wow. I don't care who you are. If you watch that and alarms don't go off, then you are out of your mind. I want to get your first thoughts on that, Shelley. Yeah. He will not talk about what actually happened to him.
Right. If you watch, when I watched his body language when he answered that question, what I saw was fear. It was veiled fear. He was trying not to look as fearful as he could have, or maybe how he was feeling, but he was fearful about something. So in his mind, going back and forth, he's weighing, I want to say something, but I know that there's some considerations I have to think about before I say what I really want to say. I saw fear there. And that tells me that when we talked about this, when he was in the box at the Super Bowl or at the football game, I still don't think that was him. I don't think that was him at that time. Thankfully, he is, of course, he's alive and he looks well, but he is fearful about something. That's my thought.
Blanca, did you get the same reaction? And if so, what is he fearful about?
Yes, he definitely took time, I believe, to recall probably what the doctor said, then how he could implicate anyone or anything. Everybody knows, I mean, we lived through this now, this is year 3 for us, that they still do not know why. He said it, healthy, young, fit, energetic. He even called himself a human being, athlete. In other words, he reiterated what was normal. And now he comes back at the end saying that he's still talking to his doctors about if he can go back to normal, he said. So things are not normal for him. And guess what? They won't be going back to normal. We might not even hear him playing, but he must have been saying, I better think about what I'm going to say, because this is now going to be recorded. That silence tells me that it is more than perhaps there's more. I agree. There's fear, but I think that there's more of, I don't want to come out and say something that people will say, I knew it.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't, because with this whole YouTube thing, people we don't want to get blocked or banned or anything like that. But we can say what we do know. We know that he mentioned he was a healthy, strong athlete prior to all of this. We also know that most of the football players in the NFL had to have vaccines, right? We know this. We also know that when he was asked a straight question, what happened, and he knows. I mean, goodness, as soon as you get up, wake up, you open your eyes, the doctors tell you what's wrong, what happened. He said he did not want to talk about it. Also, we didn't show it in this clip, but in the beginning of the interview, Michael Strahan asked him, what does he remember happening right before he collapsed? And he said again, he did it something similar. He's, I don't want to talk about it. There's a cover up of something. We don't know what, we don't know why, but we know something is being covered up. And what we do know is going on all around the country. What we know is what we're seeing in the data. This should scare everybody, and it should raise alarms. Again,
if I could.
We don't want to, say anything. Again, we wait for him to come out and say exactly, because it's going to come out. But something in the buttermilk ain't clean.
If I could too, I would like to know even why he would do an interview.
Right. Exactly. Because you knew he had to have known that he would be asked, what happened.
Well, that's for PR purposes. So he has to kind of toe the line for whomever is putting this fear in him. So he has to at least present that he's willing to talk about it. It's all for PR.
Yeah.
But you only can go so far in what you answer.
Right. Well, we will wait and see. But I do pray that every time he speaks to someone, the Holy Spirit itches him he has to say something. I hope it be a scratch and an itch within him so badly that he has to come forward and say something. May the Holy Spirit irritate him to no end, because this needs to be said. We need to know. We need to know. So again, we'll continue to follow that story. Please continue to stay with us. We will update you as to what's going on with this. We've been talking about these types of things from the very beginning for the last 2 years, and we'll continue to talk about it. But stay tuned, because this is getting interesting. All right. So we have to move on to the Michigan State killing, Michigan State University. So according to CBS News, 3 Michigan State University students were killed and 5 others were critically wounded in a shooting at the university Monday night, authorities said. The gunman was later found dead in Lansing of self-inflicted gunshot wound. Law enforcement officers at the university identified the shooter, a 43-year-old man with no obvious affiliation to the school. So this is really crazy. President Joe Biden came out and, of course, and spoke about it. He says he's renewed his call to ban assault weapons in high-capacity magazines. This was Tuesday after the shooting on the campus of Michigan State University. So we know that the shooter used a handgun. Why is he talking about assault weapons, Shelley?
Because number one, that's the standard line for mostly on the left, and these gun control advocates, I guess, that's what they're going to respond with anytime there's a shooting. They never talk about, in many of these cases, if not most, the shooters have a felony record already. So number one, they should not have even had a gun. So they don't talk about dropping the ball with the FBI, the background checks. They don't talk any about that. Number two, Biden, maybe in his demented state, he's talking about it being a rifle or an assault weapon. It was a semi-automatic handgun. There's a huge difference. So actually, it doesn't make a difference what the gun is if you're going to use it to murder someone. Any gun can murder someone, but when you're trying to wipe out and erase anybody having legal guns, you're going to use those political lines.
Yeah, I want to get your thoughts on this, Blanca. I mean, do you see that do you feel the same way? Now, we're looking here. If you look at the Virginia Tech mass shooting, which was the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history, where 33 people were killed, the shooter used handguns. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you agree with this ban on assault rifles?
Well, remember, everything that can protect us, the government wants to take from us. Everything. Mm-hmm. If we have a voice, shut it. If you have a child, give him. Mm. So my thoughts is, according to an article I read, in 2019, he legally had a registered gun to himself, but he didn't have a legally required concealed carry permit. Evidently, according to either in Michigan or federal, felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison. If in Michigan you have a gun or a weapon, because the lefts want rifles, they like that. They like that it looks like you're hunting for people, and that's not what happened here. However, he obviously already had a past, and that's what I put here that I wanted to share. Check the past before we pass any bills or bans on people who are not. He had a past already. Why did he get on probation? See, this goes back to a legal system that we say it's systemic racism. When, if you go out and you already get a legally registered gun, but you don't have a legally required concealed permit, and then you get on probation, this is, unfortunately, this person obviously is not a responsible person that should have a gun for self-defense.
Yeah. I want to also understand what you're saying. So you're saying that he did have a legal permit to carry the gun?
He didn't. He had basically had a legally registered gun, but not a
Ah.
permit. But not a permit. And
He
so
should not have had. He should not have had it because
exactly.
he already have a felony record. He should not have had it at all. Number one, which goes to my second point, is that none of these gun control laws will stop a criminal hell bent on causing mayhem and murder. They don't work. Law-abiding citizens follow the law by and large. Criminals do not. So no gun control law is going to stop him and the likes of him from obtaining an illegally obtained firearm. And I want to make a correction to Biden and whomever else. There is not an assault rifle. AR does not stand for assault rifle. It stands for the brand or the name of the rifle, which is called Armor-Lite. The left likes to use these terms to make it so ominous and overwhelming for people that, again, playing on people's emotions. This is a murderer. This is a piece of shit evil, which is what I call them. So no law would have stopped him from a criminal because he would have gotten it illegally anyway.
I also want to add, are we going to ban exercise rubber bands? Are we going to do that? That's what a nurse did. That's what a nurse in Northeast, in New England did. And sadly took the lives of her own children. Mm. So now these exercise bands are going to be banned and not sold. A nurse who is suffering from postpartum depression, evidently, this is something that she tried to commit suicide by falling off the window and falling into the yard. That's how her husband. So it doesn't matter. And I'm sorry to say it again because I recently said it, and it's not because it doesn't hurt, but my own father used a belt to take my mom's life. We're going to ban belts. That's what he used. He didn't have a weapon. He didn't have a yoga stretch band. He used a belt. So this is ridiculous. And because the government wants to take everything that is ours, the voice, our children, and now next, it's going to be the constitutional rights.
Yeah, we'll certainly continue to follow that story, but you're absolutely right. My goodness. And thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you. So I want to move on to something a little lighter, the Super Bowl. So the Super Bowl halftime show, 9-time Grammy-winning artist Rihanna took the center stage at halftime of the Super Bowl between Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, we talked about this a couple months ago, I think, or a couple weeks ago, actually. Stephen A. Smith, he was on the Sherry Shepherd talk show, and he had this to say. He was this was before the Super Bowl occurred, of course, but he was asked what did he think about Rihanna performing, and he had this to say. Take a look. This is clip number 3.
Are you excited for this halftime show?
I don't want to say I'm not excited. She's fantastic. That's not where I'm going with this.
Okay, where you going?
Ladies and gentlemen, she's a lot of things. She's spectacular, actually.
Yes.
And congratulations on new mamahood.
Yes.
There's one thing she's not.
Uh-huh.
She ain't Beyonce.
I know she's not Beyonce, but wait a minute. Hold up.
Hold on.
Steven.
The only reason I brought up Beyonce is because Beyonce recently performed at the Super Bowl.
Yes, she did.
And with and without Bruno Mars and Coldplay.
Okay, so Beyonce performed, but she's had her time. Now there's Rihanna. Rihanna's coming back. She got that extra of motherhood. I like Rihanna.
You know what? I like television.
Uh-huh.
I like a lot of talent out there. There's some spectacular females in television. I just want to say that. Everybody ain't sharing.
Okay, everybody's not sharing.
That's not throwing shade on them. That's appreciating their greatness, but understanding there's levels, you know?
Okay.
And Rihanna's music is fantastic. She's great. She's a sister. I love her dearly. I listen to her music. I'm going to support her till the cows come home. I'm just telling you, for me, There's Beyonce and there's everybody else, just like it was Michael Jackson and there was everybody else.
All right. So, my question. He said there's levels to this. Shelly, did Rihanna meet the level?
I think her show was decent, I guess. I'm not an anti-Rihanna fan, not a fan, so to speak. I think she gave a pretty decent show. She kept her clothes on. It was something that I guess I would say young people who love her, they could watch it in good faith and good heart. You could dance, have fun. I thought it was a decent show.
What about you, Blanca? Did she meet the level to other Super Bowl acts for halftime?
First of all, lewdness, that is what she presented. Lewdness and self-edification is just something I'm never going to be a fan of. I turn around, I'm on a call that just happened to, we were talking on the phone, a friend of mine talking about some of the politics that are going to happen, who's going to be running for mayor and make an announcement soon. And I turn and she has her finger up her butt. And I told my kids, turn that off. Turn it off. And I even said to my friend on the phone, if somebody wants to play with themselves, do it by yourself and alone.
Right. Look, Michael Jackson grabbed his crotch so many times in his performances. I mean, and of course, the world over, 10 times over, loved Michael Jackson. So, I mean, thank Blanca, I love you. I think her show was kind of mild compared to what she could have done.
The question is, did the lewdness meet the talent? I mean, with Michael Jackson, and again, he was a talent. He could sing, he could dance. So the little crotch grabbing that he did was, you saw it, but you ignored it because it was just so brilliant, so incredible. This woman lip sang the entire broadcast. She lip sang the entire performance mostly. I would say about 90%.
I think she lip sang. I think she lip sang because she's pregnant, and I think her.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Do not do no.
What I can say is she performed.
No, listen. I'm thinking because of her energy. I'm thinking because of her energy with her pregnancy at this, and she's in the second trimester. And I'm thinking her energy.
Done it. She should not have done it. No. I don't believe that, and I don't want to use that as an excuse. If she couldn't do it right, then she shouldn't have done it. Now. And she did an awful job, I feel like. She stood there the whole time. She didn't sing. I mean, when you think about the people who have done an incredible... Beyonce, yes, she did an incredible job both times. Bruno Mars. Katy Perry. Even Lady Gaga did a better job. I mean, no. Janet Jackson. These women... They performed, they've been pregnant, in the past. Different singers have been pregnant and performed just as good, way better than she did. She did poorly. He was totally right. And I hope he goes back on, I'm talking about Stephen A. Smith, I hope he goes back on Sherry Shepherd's show and rubs it in her face. He's annoying too, but let me stop. Okay, so there's another part in this. There was controversy surrounding Sheryl Lee Ralph's performance of Lift Every Voice and Sing. So prior to her performing, she tweeted, do we have the tweet? She tweeted, put out on here, she said, it is no coincidence that I will be singing the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing, at the Super Bowl on the same date it was first publicly performed, 123 years ago. She quotes at February 12th, 1900. Happy Black History Month. So this was a big thing. Many people, especially conservatives, were upset that she sang the song. Now, they did not announce it at the Super Bowl as the Black National Anthem, but she did, and many Black people look at this as the Black National Anthem. People felt like, hey, why do we need a Black national anthem when we have a national anthem and it's divisive? Shelly, your thoughts on this? Do you agree, disagree there? Why?
Well, first of all, Cheryl Lee Ralph should not have sang that song. She was awful to me. I mean, it was just no. The song in and of itself is a beautiful song. She just was not the one to have sung that song. She should not have. Oh my gosh, I was like, oh, this is awful. However, I know people, it's been called the Black National Anthem since before I was born. I don't know that we needed it at the Super Bowl. Again, this is just more of sports in general becoming woke, or maybe they already are becoming woke and catering to everyone. There's no Asian national anthem. I think the guy, I forget his name. Oh my gosh, the guy who sang the national anthem at the NFL, I thought he did a wonderful job with his country version. I loved it. It was beautiful. She didn't need to be up there singing it, not the one to sing it. And it was just catering to Black people, Black History Month. It really didn't move me at all.
What are your thoughts here, Blanca? Now you are, an immigrant here, Latina.
I'm not Latina.
Oh, sorry. But what do you think? I mean, do you
I'm
feel
American.
American, right? You should certainly are. So, I mean, what do you feel? How do you feel about this? That they had the Black National Anthem play, the woman sang prior to the national anthem.
Well, this would be like Univision having a soccer and saying, this is the national anthem, this is the Hispanic, Latinx, Hispanola national anthem, and they put on Don't Cry for Me, Argentina. Okay, it's going to appeal to some, but but it's not. See, we have to get away from I have to identify myself with something in order for me to validate myself. And if I can't validate myself as such, then I'm not here. No, you are here with a purpose. You're here with meaning. You're here in your own skin, your own flesh. And so to me, that's how I compare it. It's like if they sang Don't Cry for Me, Argentina, of course, Argentinians are going to be like, whoa, hey, our song got picked. Okay, but it's a pride moment. But is it a proud moment? See, I'd rather be a proud mom and not a prideful fool.
All right. But what about the pushback people say when they say, and for instance, now, Shelley, you have mentioned that this song has been known as the Black National Anthem for generations, sang at all types of functions. You've taken part in it. You've enjoyed it, when certain people sing it or what have you, and never pushed back at it being called the Black National Anthem before. Why is it an issue now?
Well, truthfully, I would say in more recent times, it's always a pushback, has been a pushback. But when Black people sang it, typically, again, when I was younger, when my aunts, uncles, my mother's generation, when they sang it, it was very much associated with struggle, particularly the struggles of the civil rights. So it was like sort of a battle cry, an anthem for those who were fighting in that battle. What the hell are Black people struggling for today? What struggle do Black people have except the self-induced struggles that we have? Other than that, I'm an American. I'm an American, and so are Black Americans who claim to not be or don't want to be, but you don't see their asses marching off the U.S. soil to their homeland, do you?
Okay. And then what about you? We also have a pushback where people say, well, this anthem was not meant for me. This country is racist, and that anthem was not really meant for Black people, was meant for white people, and they didn't consider me when this was written. So to say, that's why we need a Black national anthem. What are your thoughts there? I'll say to you, Shelley.
No, my anthem is the national anthem. I'm an American. In fact, I am a Native American. I was born here on U.S. soil. I don't know. There's no Black nation. Wakanda is not a real place. Okay. And if it were, I still want to keep my Black butt here on U.S. soil where I know I'm free.
And let me ask you, Shelley, Blanca, one last question on this, because we do have this situation where many Black people here, Black Americans, feel like second-class citizens. And you yourself, who has immigrated here, has really embraced the American way. Why do you believe there's a disconnect for Black Americans? Because you when they talk about Black, brown, you're brown, where's the disconnect? Where you can embrace it, but people who have been born here, have generations here, ancestors here, and they still don't.
Well, we have to remember, yes, I may not be from Africa, but I do know people from Africa. I've met people from Morocco. I actually just took somebody who's immigrated from South Africa, and we're close friends. She needed a ride for her son. I have friends, goodness, my friend moved to Kenya. She married a Kenyan. That's where he's from. Okay. And the difference that I see is when people come here, they're not coming. Let me go back. They're coming here. Those who are coming here to contribute end up being grateful. But the ones that were born here end up being the ones that almost envy any contribution. And then they throw it at you like, why would you want to take pride in being, you're from South Africa. Don't you want to go back? It's almost like they want everybody to leave, but they themselves are the moderators. They're the ones who decide who can leave, who can stay, what I feel, what should I feel. That I don't use Latina. And people say, well, I thought you were Latina. Oh, you're Latinx. Because I'm not a label. I'm a human being, and the nationality I am proud of is America.
All right. Well, we are moving right along to the Baltimore education crisis. So joining us, we have with us tonight, thank you so much, Davita. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's Davita.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So we have Davita Allen. She is a parent. And so I want to just give some background here. So we're talking about the Baltimore education crisis. The Maryland State Department of Education recently released the 2022 state test results, known as the MCAP, Maryland Comprehensive Assessment Program. Baltimore City's math scores were the lowest in the state. Just 7% of the 3rd through 8th graders tested proficient in math, which means 93% could not do math at grade level. Project Baltimore found in 23 Baltimore City schools, there were 0 students who tested proficient in math, not a single student. Among the list of schools, 23 schools, there were 10 high schools, 8 elementary schools, 3 middle high schools, and 2 elementary middle schools. So Davita Allen is a concerned parent, and her son attends one of those schools. So can you just share your story as far as your experience with the school and why you've come forward?
So our son is at a charter school. He's in a language immersion program. And we found out, unfortunately, when it was aired on the news, something that was disheartening because the school had already knew. So I feel like it was something that should have went out to parents. I can say that for his school, I had already been voicing some concerns because it is a language immersion program. And one of the things I've always been stressing is that it's great. I think it's great for these children to be learning a second language. I think the idea is great, but they need to be proficient in English, and they need to be learning these core skills because these core subjects, because at the end of the day, this is what the foundation is. So it was very disheartening.
Mm-hmm. I want to go to you, Shelley. Did you have a question for Davita?
So Davita, when you spoke with the, I guess the staff or the administrators at the school about your concerns, what kind of response did you get?
So, more the administrators, less teachers, because at the end of the day, I really hold the administrators accountable, less the teachers. I know, for instance, our son, he's not lagging. His teacher is amazing. But when I spoke to the administrators, it was more of believe in the model, believe in the model. And his school has 2 locations. There's an east location and a west location. And I had even spoke to old parents from the east location because our school is the newer one. And I have a friend who actually had her daughter's now 22, but at the time she had her daughter in there from K through middle to third. She pulled her out. She said it took until her daughter was in the 6th grade to get back on grade level for math. So if it was a problem all of those years ago, I hate when I see them saying, well, you know, the pandemic happened. Yeah, but you were having these issues before. So, you know, something's lacking.
Blanca, did you have a question for Ms. Allen?
Well, I wanted to share that last night I was at the Board of Commissioners meeting, and in the school that your son attends is up for renewal, and so they're making recommendations. And you are correct, Ms. Allen. It really falls on the administration. I am a former teacher at a charter school, and I can tell you that when I saw that they were having first graders trace the alphabet, not in immersion school, not at all. And it is great to have the foundation, like you said, but tracing the alphabet when you're 6, when that's a skill that a preschooler, even my first grader said, Mom, I did this with Miss Carmen in pre-K. Why? I said, maybe penmanship. But I hold the administrators accountable first. They're the adults. And so my question to you is the criteria to be bilingual at the school still like a requirement? Someone must be bilingual and be tested and exhibit that they're bilingual by 2nd grade. Is that still a criteria at the school?
It's not so much that you're required to be bilingual, because I know our son, when he entered, he was not. We purposely put him in Spanish because I do speak Spanish, and I knew that I could help him in that way. So it's not so much that is a requirement. What it is they don't start introducing having more English until 2nd grade. So come 2nd grade, they start having English intervention. So meaning they're starting to do more reading in English. But my disagreement with that model is that those younger ages, with the same ages that they're saying are so key for them learning Spanish or Mandarin or French, are the same key ages for them learning how to read in English. So our son, he had been in a private preschool since he was 2, all the way up until he started the school. So when he entered, he knew all his sight words up to 1st grade. He was already doing math. He was already writing sentences. And then we kind of saw a little slide back. So, you know, he's lucky. He has a home where education is high. So we're able to reinforce. But my concern is there are a lot of homes where parents have grown in the same flawed educational system. So if you have parents who themselves graduated or were passed on in or below reading level, how are they able to assist their kids when they struggled as well? It's something that's been happening generationally.
So let me ask you, because we've been following the news reports from city schools, from the mayor, and he seems to put the onus on parents. You know, one thing he did say, I'll quote, he says, when he was talking about the news reports, and he says, are choosing to focus on the news are choosing to focus on single data point instead of talking about the full picture. And Baltimore City schools are actually closing the gaps. So I wanted to get your response to that. You know, it's kind of a 2-part, but do you agree that the onus should be on parents? And then what do you think about what he says about this being uncovered? And it doesn't seem too happy about that.
So as a parent, we have 3 kids. We have a daughter who's at Morgan State University. We have a son who's 19 who graduated from another charter school here. And then our youngest who's 7. In our home, education has always been a partnership. We've always told teachers, we are here to partner with you. What we must also recognize, though, is here in Baltimore, the system has been flawed for generations. And that's the thing. I'm not from Baltimore originally. I went to private school here. I'm from New York originally. I went to boarding school here. Our daughter went to the same boarding school that I went to. Our son went to a charter high school. It's a flawed system. Our son, smart as a whip. He started high school, 10th grade hit. He didn't want to do the work. He felt high school was overrated. You know what I told the school? Do not promote him. I don't know anything, any place in the world that you can get promoted without doing the work. Hold him back. They told me, no, it's bad for him socially. I said, so what you're saying is it's more important for you to promote him socially and have him be out in the world unequipped and unprepared.
So what do you mean? I'm sorry if I could just jump in. What do you mean? Because I know you said he needs to do the work. So was he actually failing and they just pushed him through, or was he close on the edge?
No, at one point his GPA was less than a 1.0. I don't know how he graduated. And the thing is, he could do the work. Mm-hmm. He was at Mount Royal, Ingenuity, smart. He just didn't want to. And for me as a parent, my husband and I, we said, well, he needs to be held accountable. Hold him back. No, we're not going to hold him back. To this day, I still don't know how he graduated. He graduated, and I saw the work that they were letting him turn in late. I was like, it's no way you're getting graded good for this work. They passed him through. And so if they're doing this to him, and at least I know he can read and he could do the work, but then there's the kids who can't read, who can't do the work. So you're promoting them just like you're promoting him. And it's crazy. So, you know, it's a lack of accountability. And I always question administrators. I say to them, you're telling me the school system is so good. Where does your child go to school? Because I'm not going to ignore the fact that Dr. Santelises, when she first came here, that one of her daughters was in private school. And I know that. You know, so that's an issue.
Yeah. Did somebody else? I had another question. I don't know if somebody else.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up. Davida, you were saying how I agree with you that parents do have a role to play. But when you start with the system not even up to par, then the parents are already at a disadvantage when they start with their children in that system. So parents do need to be held responsible and accountable for making sure that their children have their needs met even before they enter school. But what would, as a parent, I'm pretty active, KJ Blanca, we're all active, but what would you tell, parents in Baltimore, what would you tell them they need to do, that they must do to demand accountability? What would you tell them?
You have to speak up. You have to be involved. When our son started his school, I ran for PTO president. For all of our kids, I've always been the parent when they sent that first week of emails. Text me, email me, call me. My job never came before my kids. I was there. Every household cannot operate like that, and I do keep that in mind. But for us, I tell them, participate, be active, voice. I've been sending out emails from the PTO email to parents. You have to be engaged. You have to speak up, because I guarantee you, like the East location of our son's charter school, yes, their charter is up for renewal. They just completed the renewal. But if for our location, because it's still building, if parents tell them, if you don't improve, we're going to pull our children out. Okay, then they start looking like, whoa, we need to make some changes. But if you can't just be willing to go along. School is not a babysitter. You're setting your children up for success. And when you look at places like Baltimore, where crime is so high, I was working on my master's in public health, and the way education and crime are so interlinked. So when you look at places like Baltimore that has such high crime rates, and then you look at the educational system, that's why it's so easy for like our mayor to want to shift blame, because if you start, everybody has to work together. Nobody wants to be accountable. You hold Dr. Santelises accountable. Let's see how all of these intertwine. give our children a good educational foundation so that as adults, they can get good employment. You don't have to worry about crime being the way that it is. It's also it's interlocked, and it's so frustrating watching that, we're pulling our son out of the school. We've applied to Catholic and private and even considering homeschool, but every home is not able to do that. And because of that, that's why I've been trying to advocate, because there are so many homes that don't have that luxury. Everybody can't homeschool and everybody can't afford private school. So, we have to speak up. Parents have to push. You have to push. You have to hold accountable.
One thing I don't understand is, because we're all parents and we all have kids, I don't understand why they are pushing kids forward that are not making the grades. I've never seen that. I don't understand why they are doing that. I mean, generally, I have a son. He's in 8th grade right now. He had a rough quarter, like last quarter, and it just wasn't as good as he generally does. But the teachers, they're not going to push him forward. They sending him. If you're failing, he wasn't failing, but if you're not doing well, or if you're failing or something, like they put it on there, and you're not going forward. I don't want to. What is the reason? Why would they push people forward if they're not passing? If anybody can answer that, I don't understand.
I personally, it's just corruption. It's corruption. It's about power. We talked about this before. The school to prison pipeline, like Davida just was saying. Well, I think they want bodies for the jails. They want bodies for their statistics so they can pass other law. I really think it's that sinister, that they don't give a damn about these children. They don't give a damn about their lives and being ready for the world. This is all for show, but it maintains them coming to the people, going to Annapolis or DC, asking for more money. Again, playing on people's emotions. I think it's just that sinister. I really do. I really believe that.
I want to add too that there is, I really, as you all gotten to know me, bilingualism. My first language is Spanish, as you know. Bilingualism, but first literacy. Literacy is so important. Remember reading Goodnight Moon to my son when he was in the womb, and like Ms. Allen said, not every household is going to reflect even some of the values that we hold so dear, which is first to educate in our home. There's single parenting or financial education, financial and also lack of education. However, when I went to the meeting last night, I also learned that who we hold accountable is also some of the school administrators that Santelises is also letting the school pass by. There is a school right now that I thought that they're advocating for it to remain open. I'm thinking, whoa, why? Why, close? This is a school that's needed. Community wants it. But I learned yesterday that this school had to forfeit federal funds, that they were not giving the special needs population the services that they needed. Those are big, big, big no-nos. They had to fire the founder of the school. They had to fire the CEO, and get a new person, hire a new principal. And I was there when the cameras were off. Santelises said, I cannot bail these types of schools anymore. Then her recommendation is 3 years with conditions for this particular school. But she said that she has sent staff to help the school. And she said they ought to be glad, in quotes, they ought to be glad that we don't charge lawyers' fees. Because she said, I cannot rescue the schools. So why then propose to keep? Why then propose? Why? Because there's a dollar value to these students.
Oh, so she's. You lost me a little bit there. So she is keeping the school.
She's recommending.
But
She's
that's
recommending. Now that board will vote on the 23rd, but her recommendation comes. That way we can, that recommendation comes. That way we are able to, as a public too, and parents, we can assess, wow, is this a school that's going to be open for enroll? Is this school going to be enrolling children? This is that period that you start enrolling children or moving. There's also a week coming up. If
So
it's
there's
not,
money, basically there's money attached to this.
of course, because
That's what you're doing.
she even said, I have my notes here. She even says, when are schools going to do the job they said with the funds that they get? And when are there going to be grown-ups in the room leading a school? A grown-up, if you're not grown up enough to run a school, then you're not grown enough to lead it. That's what she wrote. But excuse me, that's what she said. And so why then keep that school? And it's the second time in 4 years that the school has been in the same position. So now we're going to have a school, just like students, an individual in a school. The school's not doing their job. So how can we expect a student to be proficient in that kind of setting?
one thing to note, though, with that school and how it operates a little differently than the regular city schools is that school is a charter school. And the charter schools do operate slightly different when it comes to funding. So that's going to be the other key thing with these charter schools. And I've learned that because since our children have been in city schools, with the exception of them being in Mount Royal, our kids have always been in a charter school. So charter schools are a little different when it comes to funding and where their money comes from and how the city is affected by it. But they still, nonetheless, still need to be held accountable just the same. They just operate a little differently fiscally.
Yeah.
We try to open, Miss Allen. We try to open a year-round school and won a $900,000 award. Not to say that I know everything about charter, but we wanted to do this. But however, it's really following the money and who it is that's really going to make that key decision. At the end of the day, the board has a very, very, very powerful position. Mm-hmm. And those charter schools also, you may know, that they have that 501c on ARM. So you have two pots of money. You have what the taxpayers and you have nonprofit. So you have nonprofit employees, you have city employees, they're still part of the school. And so a lot of money is coming in. And yes, they all should be fiscally responsible, but evidently they did some things that said at this point, are they even capable of running the school? That's really what it came down to, the question that the board's going to have to decide.
Shelley, you had a question.
I was just thinking, all of this money that is flowing through the city schools, charter schools, whatever, and parents are we're still getting the outcomes of children not being able to read, write, and do basic math, particularly by third grade. The data has been clear for decades that by third grade, at least, if a child cannot read, not do so much well in math, but reading is the key indicator that will determine, and sure enough, be the most foundational skill for the rest of their school career, learning how to read. So if they're not able to do that, they're already on a downturn, a downslide by third grade. All of this money, I would encourage parents, why don't we ask for vouchers or school choice? Because the choices that we have now, we might as well not send the children to school at all.
Well, not according to the mayor. I mean, he was asked at the news conference about Dr. Santelises. Should she be held accountable? Because I think this was last year when she had gotten the raise, and he was asked about it, and he said, he made it seem like you don't want a black woman to get a raise. This is black women. He used to name some statistics, and he was like, yes, she should be fully paid. What do you guys think about that? I mean, did you see that interview, or did anybody see that? I mean, to me, she's in charge. She's leading this. She's the CEO of schools. She should be held responsible. I don't understand why she should get a raise or even still be in that job.
Well, if you think about the equity, remember, like he said, she's a Black woman. So Black women, the equity standards cannot apply to them. Just the fact that she's Black, that's what he's talking about, this equity standard. I don't give a darn what the skin color is. If this was you or me and we had a company and someone at the helm was not delivering whatever widget product it is, they would not be in that position, regardless of their skin color. The buck does stop with her. Parents have a role, but the administrators, and certainly Santelises says she has a role. And it's from what I see, she has been passing the buck and she's been looked askance or looked over because of her skin color. Again, hundreds of Baltimore students get it right. Her children attend public school. She's getting $500,000 a year. Add it up. What the hell does she care?
Also, the school board actually, she reports to the school board. But even last night, the comment was made by the person who makes certain, the key person who makes the recommendations for in front of the board on her behalf, that the board advises her, that they serve as an advisory. It's like, do they even know that we can't seem to find a job description. Somebody said they had a copy of a contract for her from 2020. It's very secretive how she stays in power. I'm not saying fire her. I'm just saying just bring her up. I mean, she's asking these schools to either shape up or go. And so, but the school board is who has the ultimate decision. Why? Nobody seems to know. The mayor never attends any of the board meetings, but he appoints 10 of them. So it's like, why does he didn't show up? Why is he not there?
When you look at Baltimore County now, Baltimore County is having some issues within their education system too. They're getting that man out of there. Now, he's there for 4 terms. They said, you got to go. Why can't we have that here? I mean, they seem like they're like on it. Really active, within that 1 term.
It took a year and a half, though. It took a year and a half to get him out.
Going on almost 8 years.
What I'm saying is, if it wasn't for the Baltimore County Parent Student Coalition, we're talking about Mary Taylor and Amy Adams here. If it wasn't for them making sure that the schools reopened safe, and making sure that people started attending the board meeting. Do you want to know how many parents were at the board meeting last night? 4. And 2 of them were parents on the board. They started asking the parents, if you want to change, you need to, like Miss Allen said, you need to show up. You need to be engaged. Remember, I said a couple times on the show, eager students with engaged parents and excellent educators is the creme de la creme. That is not going to ever change. I don't care what the zip code is. They said your child can go to any school in the zip code. Your zip code shouldn't determine your success. Those are the 3 pillars that are going to establish any future success for our scholars. There are children, and they put the pressure on him, and he didn't ask for a renewal. But they have been fighting for over a year and a half to make that happen. And they're very happy he's gone. And he needs to be going.
All right. Well, any final thoughts? Thank you so much, Ms. Allen, for coming on. Is there anything that you would like to say to the public as far as this situation and how we can assist you or assist parents?
Speak up, hold people accountable. I was even frustrated watching the news the other night when the city council said they were going to wait to talk to Santelises about what's going on. And that alone frustrated me because, when we voted on term limits and they were worried about their pensions, they were having these meetings quickly. Now we're talking about education, and I feel like I question if it's a stall to see what the new budget is coming out. But let me tell you, I think sometimes they bank on people not being educated enough to know. This system gets $1.6 billion, one of the highest in the country. Okay, the highest. And it's crazy because the per student spending, it's like, where's this money being spent? Why are the resources the way it is? Our son, his teacher, it's Black History Month. She said she went out and got a grant so that she can do some Black history learning in the class. And I think that's great that she did it. But why did she have to go and get a grant when we're getting $1.6 billion in this city? What is going on? What are we funding? Or what are we paying for? Because we know we don't have the best infrastructure for our schools. We know that, it's not like we have all of these programs. And don't get me wrong, do we have some students that are thriving, that are doing well? Yes. I've been seeing all the kids getting their high school, their college acceptances, and they're doing great. But we cannot ignore the fact that we also have thousands who are doing horribly, and they're being forgotten, and they're being let go through the cracks. And it's almost like you don't care. So you have to hold everybody accountable, your local officials, your mayor, your council people. Go to the board meetings. Go to your PTO meetings. Go to your school meetings, because that's one thing I have been saying. If I even just change something at my son's school, then I made a difference. You don't necessarily have to start at the top. Start small. Ask, how can I support this school? What resources do you need that I, as a parent, can advocate for you as a teacher and the school? But you have to be involved. You have to, because if not, I just feel like they just don't care. And I care. I care about your child, not just mine. Because I know my son is going to be fine. But I worry about the ones who are not. And that's what's concerning.
Yeah, that's just what I was thinking. I'm like, if you and your husband are so involved, and this is happening to you, you can't imagine with people, single moms who are working, single dads, grandmas who got their kids working, and they're going to get run over and forgotten even more. So, and it's not about, yes, there are kids that are thriving in Baltimore City schools. Yes. But as I said earlier today, if you have children who cannot even do basic reading and math, this is a problem. I can see it with something where, oh, well, these kids aren't meeting, higher standard. This is the base level. They should be able to do basic math and read. Everybody.
That's the thing right there. That was it. I know my son's school. When that first report went out that night, I was on my way to sleep. My husband said, "Oh my God." He was like, "Look at Gerald's school is on the news." And I sat up and I watched, and I grabbed my laptop. This is like now, like 10:30. And I'm sending this email. And I'm emailing the principal and the director and the board members. And I'm sending this scathing email. And the next day, the principal said, "Well, we're now at 5%. And I looked at her, and his principal was educated in China. And I said to her, I said, "Okay, let's back this up. Growing up in China, would your parents have sent you to a school where there was 0% proficiency in math?" She said, "No." I told her to stop thinking that's good enough for our kids, because it's not. Stop. And that's where you have to sit there and go toe to toe. I know our son's school. I know they're angry with me. I don't care. I don't care. Be angry. I'm very transparent. I send them before they get to see it. I send them the links to anything that I'm on. This is what I'm on, because I'm transparent. And I told her, I'm going to hold y'all accountable. I'm going to be on your necks. I'm coming for you, because you have got to do better by these kids and stop trying to push something that is clearly not working. Fix it.
All right. Well, Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We will definitely continue. We've been talking about this for the last 2 years at least, talking about Baltimore City Schools and the education system. We will continue to do that. And in any way we can help, we certainly will.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Good night.
Good night. All right. There you have it. Any last thoughts, ladies, before we end tonight?
I wanted to share just briefly that all of this money, like Shelley said, like Miss Allen, like you, because who? We're the taxpayers paying for it. They're going to be building 4 new buildings. Frederick Douglass is going to get a new building. City College is getting a new building. Briscoe is getting a new building. And Western is going to get a new building. That's where the money's going to go. And my question often is, why build a new building for it to aesthetically look well when the quality of education doesn't match the building that you just did? All the bells and whistles at Patterson High School, brand new school. I was translating for people when they wanted a brand new school because the place is this where it was built and what was there and what was on the ground. There was health issues. The school was very old, but now they have a new building. But that isn't going to translate to better grades, and we have to think about that. I'm not saying goodness, have the roof fall on the kids. No, but it's never going to transfer to education just by giving them a new building. Okay, somebody who hasn't bathed for 3-4 days, it's not going to smell better when they put on Versace.
You're right. And we know there are places all over the world. You have places in Africa and the Caribbean where they are in little huts on dirt floors and are getting a better education than some of these students are getting in Baltimore City. So it's not about the edifice. It's about the amount of time, accountability, and attention that they're giving these children.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
All right. That does it for our show tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Continue the conversation by checking us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and subscribe. That's right. We have a new YouTube page, Pop and Politics. Check us out on there. You can also go to our website at www.popandpoliticslive.com. Again, you get up-to-the-minute content when we post, and we appreciate the support. We are an independent media, and each time you subscribe to our channels, it helps make our voice that much stronger. We are a necessary voice in news and entertainment. We look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, count your blessings and live a life of purpose. Good night.